Hey guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to another video. So I was actually debating whether or not to do this video because I was like, oh, everyone's going out of lockdown. I don't know if this is like as relevant anymore, but where I live we've just kind of been put back into like a stricter lockdown a little bit. So today I'm going to be recommending you some of my favorite media that I've been consuming lately, and hopefully this helps keep you occupied now that we really don't know where the end of all of this is. So today I'm going to be recommending you some of my favorite books, TV shows, YouTube channels and Instagram accounts and podcasts that I've been loving lately. So yeah, let's get into the video. Alright, so the first category that I'm going to be talking about is YouTube, because I mean, if you're watching this video, then clearly you like watching YouTube videos, so I'm assuming that this will be interesting to you. So some of these YouTubers I've been watching for a while, some of them are pretty recent. So the first one on my list is Nana Florence. So Nana is a 20-year-old from the UK, so she's currently in London. She's had to like move back from uni because of COVID, but she usually does like uni videos. She goes to the University of Edinburgh and she just has like a really calming channel. It's a mix of like uni videos and like what I do in a day and kind of like fashion videos, but she's also pretty big on the sustainability scene and does lots of things on that front. So I just really love watching her videos and it's just really nice to have on when you just want to chill out. So yeah, definitely recommend checking her out. So the second channel that I want to recommend, I've only just started watching recently. She just popped up in my recommended feed and I absolutely love her channel. So her name is Moya Mohini, I think that's how you say it, and she's from Ireland, also 20 years old, and she was doing uni videos when she was studying abroad in New York, but now she's just doing really chill at home videos, and she honestly has like the nicest aesthetic and just like such a chill and laid back vibe. Like every single time I watch her videos, at the same time they're both like inspiring and motivating, but also make me just want to like binge watch all her videos and just like let her voice completely calm me. I've also become obsessed with the Irish accent because of her, so I highly recommend her channel. The third channel that I'm going to mention, I feel like I don't even have to mention, but of course Best Dressed, our queen. Of course she has absolutely amazing content. Understandably there hasn't been too much content from her lately, but I know that some people are finding it really hard to create right now, so I've absolutely been loving just binging on her content and everything. Her videos are just like so amazingly edited and all of that, and she is a thrift flipping queen. We love it. Please, if you haven't watched her, go and watch her. Like, I really don't need to say more about that. Alright, and the fourth channel that I'm going to recommend is a fellow Aussie creator who only just recently started YouTube, but she has absolutely taken off. She has done so well. Her name is Caitlin Kleinberg, and she, as soon as she popped up, and I think one of the name of her videos was like Op Shop Chop, and of course like in Australia we call like thrift shopping op shopping, and I was like, is she Australian? So super exciting. But she is amazing. Her editing is so good. She really reminds me of Best Dressed, but with like a slightly different style, of course. And her thrift flips are so good. Like she does really well. She makes amazing dresses and stuff like that. Her sewing skills are like impeccable. So I recommend checking her out if you haven't seen her already. Oh, and also she's really funny. Like her humor is absolutely on point. So alright, so next I'm going to recommend some Instagram accounts really quickly. I won't go into too much depth, but I do love, so Nana Florence's Instagram account is really nice, and then Caitlin Kleinberg, she posts some really informative stuff about sustainability on her story and stuff like that. And then we have the account Yeah Mag, so Maggie from Melbourne, and she does amazing work in educating people about sustainability and greenwashing in fashion. So she's really passionate about fashion and she does a lot of work. Like she messages a lot of brands and asks them about their ethical transparency and things like that. So she's really on the ball and just like really self-aware, and I really enjoy her content, and she also has a really cool sense of style, so highly recommend giving her a follow. Alright, and then we also have Bobo Mattia and Flex Mummy, who both are part of the podcast Bobo and Flex, which I'll talk about in the next section, but they're two Instagram accounts separately. So Bobo has a really interesting point of view on life, and she poses really philosophical and existential questions on her Instagram story, and every time I flick through I like have a little bit of a crisis as I'm reading through. But it's just really interesting, and I think it's really nice to have something thought-provoking on your Instagram stories. And same with Flex, she poses some really interesting questions as well, and also her feed is just amazing. She's got so much color and vibrancy on her feed, so I love it. And the last account that I'll recommend is Amaka. I'm not entirely sure how to say her last name, but I'll put it up on the screen. She's just absolutely gorgeous, and I love her whole vibe. Her aesthetic is so nice. Really brightens up my feed. Alright, so next I'm going to talk about my favorite podcast. So my all-time #1 favorite podcast is Shameless, which I was actually introduced to by a friend, which I'm so grateful for because I love their podcast so much. But I have a few episodes that I would recommend. So they do podcasts that they release on a Monday where they talk through like pop culture and some like big news stories that happen during the week, and then on Thursdays they do guest interviews with influential people from Australia. So I'm recommending 2 guest interviews. So the first one is with Nawal Sari. She talks about what it was like to grow up Muslim and when she decided to start dressing modestly and stuff like that, and about her journey in being like a fashion influencer but in the modest clothing industry. It's just really interesting because it's a completely different perspective on fashion, and I really enjoyed listening to her story. The second episode of theirs that I would recommend is another In Conversation episode with Hugh Van Cuylenberg. So he founded the Resilience Project, which is like a mental health project and they go to talk in like schools and workplaces and stuff like that about mental health to people. And his episode was just really great, and talking about like a positive mindset and stuff like that. It was released during lockdown, so he was talking about having a positive mindset while everything around us is changing, and I think that was a really great episode for just helping me shift my perspective a little bit, so I highly recommend that one. The third episode from them that I would recommend is called The Uncomfortable Reality of Internalized Misogyny. So I had never heard of internalized misogyny before this episode, which I feel like I should have, but I just hadn't come across it before. And I think that episode is really important for like all women to listen to. I guess when you think about misogyny, you think about it as coming from outside, and you think about it as something that affects you from like, first of all, like the system, and then like men and stuff like that, but you never really think about it as something that you internalize and something that can affect you from within and from within other women. So it's just a really, really great listen, and I highly recommend that. It's very thought-provoking. Alright, so the second podcast that I recommend is Bobo and Flex. So as I was saying before, they both have really interesting perspectives on life, and they have really, really great conversations, and just like they talk from perspectives that you would never really think about, and I love all their insights into different topics and issues. So I would really recommend the episode Lana Del Rey, Doja Cat and Anti-Blackness. That's one episode. It was just a really, really great listen, and I highly recommend that one. Alright, and the third podcast that I recommend is one that just is very new, so I've just recently started listening to it, but it's called Always Was, Always Will Be Our Stories. So this one is hosted by an Indigenous woman, Marley Silva, and she does interviews with Indigenous people, so she does a lot of great work to lift up and highlight Aboriginal voices and stories. So I think that one's really great to listen to. I've only listened to one episode so far, but I really loved it, and I'm definitely going to listen to more, and I think it's really great as an educating resource for people in Australia, and yeah, I highly recommend that one. Alright, so next I'm going to talk to you about my favourite TV shows at the moment. So 2 of these are documentaries because I haven't really had that much time for like proper TV shows right now. So the first one is an episode of Patriot Act, and it's called The Ugly Truth of Fast Fashion. I actually saw this one recommended on social media, so I thought I would give it a watch. Patriot Act is like a stand-up comedy type show with the presenter Hassan Minhaj, and he talks about serious issues with like a comedic twist, so it's really palatable and easy to understand. So this one was about fast fashion, and it was really informative and really eye-opening. It talked about how like the environmental impact of fast fashion, but then also just like the mental psychology behind it kind of, and it really opened my eyes. Was really interesting, so I recommend that. It was only 30 minutes long and it's on Netflix and YouTube, so super accessible to watch. Alright, and next of course I have to recommend Normal People. Like, if you haven't heard of this, then surely you must have been living under a rock. It's been everywhere. I watched it a little while ago when it first came out, but it's so good. So it's only on Stan, but like I just signed up for a free trial and watched it then. But it's absolutely amazing. I love the way that it delves into like a romance, but without all the like fluffy Hollywood type romance. Like, it's really realistic and I really enjoyed that. But of course I would highly recommend reading the book first, just because there are some things that you like. As I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, I wouldn't have quite understood that scene if I hadn't have read the book. So please read the book first and then watch the show if you haven't already. But that is like my highest recommendation. Also, Connell is really attractive. I mean, they're both attractive. It's just such a good show. You have to watch it. Alright, and I feel like this one's been really like over recommended as well, but 13th on Netflix is really informative and educational, and especially as an Australian, I feel like I'm not as informed on issues in the US in regards to like what's going on with like the 13th Amendment and then just like black people and stuff like that. So I thought it was really interesting, kind of absolutely blew my mind as to like the things that are allowed to go on. So I highly recommend that one to watch as well. It's fairly long, I think it's just under 2 hours, but it is so worth the watch. Alright, and lastly I have some books to recommend. So the first one that I sort of finished recently was this book, All the Light We Cannot See. I feel like I've shown this book in a video like 3 times now, but it took me forever to get through it. I will say that it's definitely quite a slow read until about the last 100 pages. It took me a really long time to read it. I think I picked this up at the start of the year and only just finished it maybe like a month ago, but I absolutely loved the writing style. It was written so beautifully, like so poetically, and it follows the stories of a French girl and a German boy, both living through World War II. And it was kind of a nice bit of escapism to read this while everything was going on. Definitely not an uplifting read, but definitely really interesting and so beautifully written, so I would highly recommend this. And the next book that I would recommend is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. I don't actually have it on me because I've lent it to a friend to read because it was that good. But it's Kylie Reid's debut novel, which is absolutely amazing. I think she did a really great job, and it's super educational and also just like a really like light read. Not necessarily light in the topics that it talks about, but it was really easy to read the book. So it's about a black girl, Amira, who babysits for a white woman, and just the dynamics that go on there and everything, like the issues and stuff like that. It's really interesting. I would highly recommend that book. And I feel like I just have to quickly throw this one in there, but Normal People, please read the book, especially if you're gonna watch the show. Just read it. It's amazing. I loved it. The writing style is a little bit different because there are no quotation marks around the speech, but you kind of get used to it, but such a good book. Alright, and my last recommendation that I have is this one, Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. So I feel like I'm kind of cheating by recommending this one because I'm like just under halfway through, but I'm really loving it. I know that some people have mentioned they've had issues with it because there's actually very minimal punctuation in the book. Like, there are no full stops, there's only a few commas and maybe some exclamation marks, and then there's also no capital letters, so it's a bit hard to tell like when there's a new sentence, but I kind of like that flow and effect. It feels quite poetic, but it goes through, like, it talks about the stories of all these different black women living in different periods of time, and it's just really interesting, and it's such a gripping story. And yeah, it's just like these women are such complex and multifaceted characters. I can't wait to finish it, but I really recommend it. from what I've read so far. Alright, so those are all of the recommendations that I have for you today. I really hope that you find something that you like here, whether it's just like a short video or a new book to read or something. I've definitely loved all of these bits of media so much, so I hope that you do too. And I hope that everybody is staying safe at the moment, especially if you live where I live. I know that restrictions just got tighter and it's really hard, but I hope everyone's keeping their spirits high and doing something that they enjoy. But anyway, I hope that you all have a great week, and I will be uploading more regularly now. I was just a little bit off because I had exams and stuff like that, so I didn't have as much time, but now I'm on winter break from uni, so I'll be here with a new video every week. So I'll see all of you guys next week. Bye!